Right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Did you go on the cable car? Yeah, you went on the cable car. A beautiful ride over to the HR Expo. One of five, well, maybe one of five. Maybe you went to all. Probably didn't have time to check out absolutely everything, but over 5 days, you probably will. And remember, after these 5 days here, HR Week 2022, a little bit later on, a little bit after, probably the week after, up to a month of time to kind of again go through absolutely everything you missed. If you're missing this and you're watching this on replay, welcome back. Okay, so you can absolutely see everything, every word, every piece of advice, every shared inspiration. You can see it all over again. Or again, if you've missed it, you can jump back and find all the things you need, which makes HR Week quite unique and quite special indeed. Right, let's move on now to our next session. So our next speaker, the next person who's about to share his insights, in fact, is from Nisa, our general partner, naturally. And the great thing here is, in fact, he has a great career background in communications, but recently, naturally, in HR as well, HR, employer branding as well. So he's kind of like somebody who can naturally bring these two together and really share both perspectives at the same time. I'm not going to say too much more about that other than the title of this is Relying on Purpose, Not Propaganda. Relying on purpose, not propaganda. What does all that mean? We'll find out very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in your homes, at work, the silent applause I can hear through the screen for our next speaker, Ivan Marković. Ivan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Peter.
Oh, Ivan Marković! What a wonderful image I see. A professional that even looks more professional than our studio here. We should swap.
Next time you should join us here. So do your moderation.
Yeah. Listen, Ivan. Before you start, I have to say, a friend of mine who lives here in Belgrade. I showed him actually the agenda, and he said that he recognizes you. He recognizes you from TV somewhere, and he said to me, "This is a man who certainly knows his food." Is that right?
Actually, now I feel more like I'm doing a weather forecast, from the studio. But yes, I have some cooking tips and tricks that I can share through this example as well. So
yeah. Great. Okay, remember again, everybody watching, again, you're curious, not just about the food, but you're curious naturally about what Ivan has to share right now. Again, pop them down as he speaks in the chat, and at the end, I'll get to ask those questions directly to Ivan and hear his unique perspective. Ivan, over to you.
Yes, you said that my story is about the food, and I will take you now to the supermarket. Actually, this is my Instagram story that I shared on my foodie Instagram profile a few weeks ago. I went to the supermarket in my neighborhood. It is just a regular supermarket, where I go to buy all the essentials that I need for everyday usage. So I was standing in a queue, and I noticed that something is going on at the counter. I was still standing and waiting, and it was my turn. And I got my bill. And along with the bill, I got a request from the cashier, actually, from the lady. She asked me, "Mister, do you want to participate in our petition?" I was really shocked because so many things popped up to my mind. What kind of petition is this? And I said, I beg your pardon? Yes, we are running a petition, so we want you to participate if possible. And then I asked again, can you just give me more details about the petition? She told me, "We want our manager back." I was like, "How do you mean? I mean, you want your manager back?" "Yes, they sent him to another location. Our shop is in the chaos. We are in the chaos. We need him back." I was really touched with this story because, I'm into these engagement topics more than 15 years, and I do everything, to boost the engagement. But, some engagement things happens organically, naturally, without any kind of propaganda. And I think this is the real example of the engagement because people care about their team and the bond that they created, and they care about the business results. So it has direct impact on the business results because they are worried about how the shop will be working in the future without their manager. So, but we can't see these examples like this, every day. And I will mention you one more example, which is about collective fragility, when people are very much engaged. Collective fragility could be, some situation that company or the community is passing through, like it could be like earthquake, it could be a floods, or it could be a very serious financial situation issue that company is handling at the right moment. So in this situation, we can really expect the organic engagement where people really care about what is going on, because they are finding their purpose and they are aware of the trouble that they are going through as a part of the community, no matter if it's in company or if like in the country or wherever. But what we are doing as a company is usually, and this was also my experience in the past, that we do something that is called corporate tattooing. And this is not a new benefit, new trendy, sexy benefit that companies are doing, especially the IT companies. It is something actually that we used to do, that we're still doing, but it is very old-fashioned. The words, one team, the same values, one team, one goal. Together we can achieve more. We are different and we create a difference. So this row can continue. And we usually, deliver these claims, slogans throughout the year, thinking that this will boost the employee engagement. We do these temporary tattoo stickers for the team buildings with these slogans. We spend a lot of money on this kind of propaganda, and we are not thinking how they're meaningful to our employees. We don't think about if they feel it or not. And propaganda is a very serious weapon, and so it has some good sides and it has some negative sides. So in some situations, when you do too much propaganda, you really create a disengaging environment, because people do not trust those empty words that are flying around. And what they believe in is kind of the micro-bonding. If you approach them personally, if you approach their team, and in that situation, you can think about something that initiates the organic engagement. And yes, you have a situation when, for instance, you dislike your employer, you don't like your employer. Maybe it's the situation with the supermarket that I gave as an example in the beginning, but you can very much, you're like a leader and team. So we've heard about the stories that people leave the leaders and not the companies, but I know the stories that people stay in the companies because of the leaders. So we really need to think about that engagement happens. Maybe all these people did not reply positively within our engagement survey. Maybe they gave negative opinions, but still in everyday business, they care and they are really engaged. I think that engagement is becoming very luxury thing, it's very expensive. We are all into the topics like quiet quitting, shortages of people. We can hardly cover, basic processes because we miss the people, especially in the retail sector that I gave as an example in the very beginning. And that's why I think that we need to think about new combination, new recipes of engagement or whatever it's called. So I will start with the belonging. Belonging is important, and it is the question that people are asking themselves every day. Why I'm coming to work, what I get in return, do I belong here, do I belong to this environment or not? And what we used to do is to measure the loyalty, a long-term loyalty with the company through the EMPS and other surveys, but actually what we should focus on is belonging at the moment. And purpose is very important, but if you think that people will perceive their job as a higher purpose, think twice. When I started my career, it was almost 20 years ago. Here in Serbia, we really had this transition period. The foreign companies started coming. It was really fancy to work for a big corporation, foreign companies. And for me, it was really part of the higher purpose. But nowadays, job is perceived differently. We find higher purpose in other things, like, supporting the community, spending our time with our family, doing something ecologically that will boost really ecological awareness and other things. So it's really hard to expect from people that they will see their employer and their job as a higher purpose, not to mention to give their last breath to the company. We can't expect that much. And this is my favorite. Actually, no, the next one is my favorite. So the purpose plus relations, as I told you, so each individual needs to feel a kind of purpose. Why I'm here, what I'm doing here. And it's the question they're asking themselves every day. Together with relationships that they build in their micro teams. And how we measure actually engagement, usually we do it through these big engagement surveys that are happening once in a year or every second year. And in practice, it looks like this. You do a big campaign, you spend a lot of money in promoting campaign, pushing people to respond. And then you spend some time in analyzing the data. And then you spend more time in creating the plans. And all of a sudden, it is a summer. It's June, it's a vacation period. And then in September, we start doing something. We lost so much time. We lost a chance to improve something. We lost a chance to do something meaningful for our employees because we do not rely on the micro data that is really running around, that is flying. So we do not take into consideration, these pulse checks. We don't take into consideration the talks that we have between our people, with our people, that leaders, the feedback that is coming from the locations, from the fields. No, we don't. We simply say, okay, we will see it in the engagement survey that is coming this year. And especially in the exit interviews, for the exit interviews, people are so much relaxed, They want to release all the pain that they have about the company, and then we can really use it as something that will improve the engagement and the experience itself. So I don't think really that we should encourage that much in the future, a big surveys followed by a strong propaganda, and to spend so much time in working with the marketing teams, how this campaign will look, instead of investing our time really with the people in the offices, in the field, to improve something so that they will maybe be engaged in their work or not. And of course, it is a matter of interests. As I told you, people don't find the higher purpose in their job that much every day. So they expect some return of investment too. Every time when we measure the employee engagement and what kind of impact it brings to the company, we say, okay, it will decrease the absenteeism, it will increase the productivity, and it will decrease the fluctuation. But what this will bring to the employee, the one who is really doing extra mile, something extra mile, so what he or she will get in return. That's why I think that's actually the age of the, old-fashioned employee engagement tactics is over sometime, or it's approaching its end. And it's more about really building the alliance between employee and the company. This is not the recipe. I need to try it, but I think it will work. So let's try together. So for the alliance, for any kind of the alliance, you need to tell the truth. So people want the truth. So leave, please, the package aside. Leave all this propaganda aside. Remove the filters and try to actually tell the truth and share it, at least spoon by spoon. But this is something that could be a route for building alliance. So alliance can't be built without the truth that is set at the very beginning. Let leaders lead. Sometimes we do not rely on leaders that much, but actually they're the ones who create the engagement. I gave you an example at the very beginning. So it is about the leader and the microenvironment and bonding that he or she creates with his team. So we need to rely on their tips and tricks and skills to boost the engagement in the company. What I don't like is when the global companies are cascading their global approach to the local communities. So actually, what global teams should do when it comes to engagement is to give the tools, to guide the teams, but not to manage the engagement in the local communities. You need to set this mutual interest, and I think this mutual interest needs to be defined between the leader and the team. So because we as a company, we as an HR cannot define the mutual interest between each employee in the company, especially at NIS, which has over 10,000 employees. So again, we need to rely on the leader who will set the mutual interest, the alliance with his team member. So after making the agreement, actually, this agreement needs to have something that considers clear expectations, roles, and deadlines, so that we all know how we are standing and what is expected. And what do you mean by giving an extra mile at work? So please, can you just write it down, and can we shape it somehow as a kind of the alliance, pact, I like that word. And of course, we need to define the expected outcomes. So what this will bring to me as an employee and as employer. Does it really worth the investment spent in increasing and boosting my personal employee engagement? And what I hope is my presentation was not just another corporate propaganda. And I really kindly ask you to ask this question yourself every time when you're doing some kind of engagement campaigns, planning your engagement activities, because really engagement is not about the fun. It's about really creating something outstanding that is very expensive nowadays for the companies. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, listen, we've got a few questions for you, but before we begin, someone actually wrote at the beginning, what is this Instagram profile? What's the name of the Instagram profile? I need to know now. What is it?
I can share it with you. Yeah, it is Shumadian Chef. Shumadian Chef.
Shumadian Chef. Okay.
Yes.
Shumadian Chef.
Shumadia is a region in Serbia, so it's about my roots. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, now next question. Can you see the generational difference in engagement, and how do you adopt your approach towards them?
We should go more locally. Actually, there is no general approach. That's why I think like the employee experience is something that really influences on the engagement. We need to work locally with every single team to see what really initiates or triggers their engagement. So there can't be like a global campaign. So we need to go, if we have like a number of locations, we need to go to a location and to do something for them that triggers, that really initiates their engagement. So I don't trust in the good big plans. I really trust in doing something small, something very micro to the specific team, to the specific person, in order to boost their engagement.
So rather than going wide and thinking big, really focusing down on those ideas and really making sure that works, right?
Yes, especially if we want to be agile and to react promptly, we need to do, to have some quick wins. Okay, it is important to have a wide picture, like global approach, but we need to do something for everyone. So, I told you about the ROI, return of investment. He or she needs to feel it, that you are reacting on his or her moves.
One question which was related to Masha's session a little bit earlier on. Again, remember on the last day of HR Week on Friday, it's C-Level Day, where they'll be sharing their insights with us. If there was a question or something you wanted to ask them, C-Level professionals, what would you say?
I think that actually they're balancing between the business goals and people, but I would ask them, how do they balance this story? Because I heard a lot of stories that they are always care both about business results and people, but I don't hear it in practice, how the executives are really creating this kind of balance, so they really think about this human resources and human capitals. And I want really to hear their explanation about the human capital and potentially in their specific business.
So if there isn't any speakers that are looking at this right now, you can answer that question on Friday. Listen, Ivan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas, your perspectives, and I personally, I'm intrigued to know more about that Instagram profile and learn more about the food side of your background. Actually, listen, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.